Hey guys, Quiv the Lazy Geek here and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do some pre-processing and post-processing of the IC1396 star cluster and the Elephant Trunk Nebula that I captured a few nights ago, not long after the full moon, using my ASI 533 MC Pro, Optolong L-Extreme and Sharpstar 61 telescope. And I got 360-second frames, which is not a lot, especially like from my area here in Tokyo. I am also going to use PixInsight for the whole stacking, pre-processing and post-processing, simply because I want to also check the NormalizeScaleGradient script that has been added to PixInsight a few months ago, and that should get us a better picture than before. So let's have a look. The first thing that I want to do is go inside script, in batch processing, and use the weighted batch pre-processing, which has changed quite a bit since the last time I featured it on the channel. So the first things first, we are gonna select my lights, my flats, and my darks. So to select my lights, I'll just press the button, the lights button here, and that opens a window where I can navigate to my light frames. So I have 300 light frames in here. I'm just gonna select them all, click on open, and there we have my light frames in here. We're going to do the same thing for flats and for darks. So I click on flats, I go to my flat frames and I put them in, and I'll click on darks and I'll go to my dark frames and I'll put them in. And then for the flat darks that I used, the dark flats, which are basically dark frames for flat frames, I can either add them in darks or add them as bias frames, because with modern sensors like the ASI 533 MC Pro, basically bias frames and flat and dark flats, with the very low thermal noise that those cameras have, is actually extremely similar when the cameras are cooled. But I will just use dark flats as darks. So I'll go into darks and I'll select my dark flats. So these are my calibration frames. And once I've added those, and ideally you really want to have at least flat frames for your calibration. They're a bit difficult to take, but I have a video on the topic that I'll put up there if you're interested. Now we can go to the control panel here, and the control panel tells me what's going to happen. What's going to happen is, so if I select my flats here, you can see that my dark flats, which are exposure time 1.89 seconds, are green, meaning those flat frames will be calibrated with my my flat dark frames. And if I click on my light frames, we can see that they will be calibrated with both my flat frames and the dark frames. So that gives us a summary of what's going to happen, which is really, really neat. Another thing is that as you click through, you'll see that you have settings that appear on the right. So for my darks and my flat darks, I'm not going to change anything. But for my flat frames and my light frames, since both are from a one-shot color camera, I'll set CFA images, because they are indeed CFA images, CFA for colored filter array, which basically says it's a one-shot color camera with a Bayer matrix, the color filter array. I will also want to go to my lights frame tab again, and we have two choices here. We could generate subframe weights and use the weighting parameters, which since the last time I featured PixInsight have added my favorite measure for pre-processing, which is the number of stars. Awesome! But this time we're actually not going to use that, because we are going to use the NormalizeScaleGradient, which computes weights for us. So we're going to see how well that does. So I'm going to uncheck the generate subframe weights, and I'm going to check that I want to do the image registration. So that means we will calibrate the images with flat frames and dark frames, and we'll also register the images. And register means we're just aligning the stars between the images so that when we finally stack them, we have everything properly aligned on top of one another. And I will not do any drizzling, so I'm not going to generate any drizzle data. And another thing, since we're going to use the NormalizeScaleGradient, or whatever the name of that script is, sorry if I get it wrong each time, we're not going to use image integration. So I'm not going to apply the integration, and you need to set a directory for the actual process to take place in. And so here I am selecting my directory, and you need a directory with a lot of free space, because all of your light frames, they will get calibrated versions, they will get registered versions, and also they'll get normalized versions in the end. So it's going to take a lot of disk space. And now we can simply run the process, and I'll get back to you once the process is done. Okay, the process is done, and we can see that we now have multiple directories under the process folder that we selected. We have directory with all of our calibrated frames, so both flats and lights. We have a directory for the registered frames, and we have the master frames, which for us do not include a light frame because we only have master dark, master flat dark, and master flat. So the next step we're going to do is to finally use this script, the NormalizeScaleGradient. The first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to add my registered frames to this. So I'm going to go astrophotography, process, registered. And yes, that would be my registered frames, and I'm going to select them all. And there's a really cool thing here is that we have the altitude available in here based on the metadata that we have in each of those frames, which is, I think, super cool. And that way we know when the pictures were highest possible. And so in theory, for me, in a very light polluted location, the higher the object, the better. And we want to have a great reference frame for our NormalizeScaleGradient, because it's going to take that reference frame and it's basically going to make all of the other images that I took look like my reference frame. So we really want a neat and clean reference frame. And to do so, one way would be to open a second instance of PixInsight. So open the new instance and then check the frame. And full disclosure, I did that before the video, so I know that this frame is actually very clean. So I will just double click it. Didn't work. I will just click it and then click on set reference. And now we have it set as our reference frame. So this is what is going to be used by the whole normalization process. The normalization process will generate weights based on this keyword. And if you already have files existing, you can overwrite files. I'm not going to do that. And we can also choose an output directory. By default, it's going to be the same directory as your registered frames, but you can set a new directory. For instance, I can go in there and say we're going to add a new directory, and we're going to call it like normalized. Here it is, and I want all of my normalized frames to be in that directory. We could keep them in the registered directory, because each frame would have a postfix like NSG here, which would make them recognizable compared to the others, but still probably easier this way. Now there's photometry going on with this, there's samples, there's all sorts of stuff, and it seems to me that the default options are working really, really well, and that there's really no need to change anything. And I haven't gone into to the trouble of checking what each of those options did, because for me it just worked, which I find pretty amazing. So there's one thing that we may want to check to test is the image integration. I'm going to keep image integration here checked, because once the script is done, it will open up a new image integration window with all of the proper integration parameters. So I'll just need to click run, and it's going to be done. And also with the image integration, something as well as the minimum weight. Basically with the minimum weight, you're saying how much do you want the worst frame in your stack to count compared to the best frame in your stack. Here we're saying that the worst frame in my stack will count half as much in the final integration as the best one in my stack. So that's something to keep in mind. Although I think I took this as fairly high elevation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bump it up to maybe like 55%. So it's going to count a bit more than half then as the best frame. And then we can run this. Once I run this, it's going to go through each of the images and it's going to do star detection, a lot of stuff per image. And with my powerful PC, it's going to take roughly 7 to 8 seconds per image, and I have 300 of them. So it's going to take a while, and it might take a longer while with lower spec PCs. So something to keep in mind. Okay, so I'll run that and I'll get back to you once it's done. And once I run it, we get back to the screen of the script. Once I exit the script, the image integration tool will automatically pop up. And here we are with the image integration screen that popped up automatically upon exiting the NormalizeScaleGradient script. And we have our normalized image pre-populated. We also have the weights and the fits keyword for the weights also pre-populated, which is really nice. And then one thing that I like to change is the pixel rejection. For me, it went to the generalized, extreme, studentized deviate, but I'm going to put that to Windsorized Sigma clipping, because that's something that I like to use. And for the rest, I'm just going to keep everything default, and we're going to run the image integration, which should open up our image here. Okay, and here we are. Our image integration is done. I'm going to look quickly at the rejection low, and we're going to do some dynamic cropping based on that, without even looking at the main image yet, because I just want to see it at its best before I actually look at it. So where is my dynamic crop? Here it is. We're going to set the dynamic crop on this frame. This should be pretty good. And we're going to apply it on the main image. Good. And now let's have a look at the main image. It's completely green, which makes sense because of all of the green pixels that we have in the camera. So I'm going to launch the screen transfer function, unlink it, click here, and then we can see what we get. Now, obviously, this is not a lot of data from Tokyo, under the moon as well to some extent. So we're not getting like exceedingly good data, and I do not see like a lot of blue that the unlinked stretch is revealing, which means that instead of using unlinked stretch like I did with my North America Nebula video, for instance, which you can check out here, by the way, I'll be separating the channels. So we're going to separate the channels using this button here. And now we have red, green, and blue. I'm going to rename them. No, I'm just going to keep them here. Let's have a look at red. Looking good. Let's look at blue, looking a bit noisy with not a lot of details. Let's look at green. It's better than blue. So what's happening here is that red caught all of the H-alpha from the red spectrum, and both green and oxygen 3 caught all of the, both green and blue caught all of the oxygen 3 from the filter. But because we have more green pixels in the camera, it seems that green gets a better signal to noise ratio. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this thing to H for hydrogen alpha, and we're going to use pixel math to combine blue and green. So here it is. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to rename this to B and this to green. It will be easier for me to just type. I see that, green has twice as many pixels as blue did. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do, I haven't really done that before, but we're going to take green with twice more importance than blue. So I'm going to add 2 times green plus 1 times blue. And we want to make sure that this gets, averaged out. So we're going to divide by 3. Right, so we're normalizing in a way. So 2 times green, 1 times blue, that's 3, and we divide by 3. That's the combination that I will do. Plus, it's justified because green has definitely a better signal to noise ratio with what we see. So I'm going to go into destinations and say we're going to create a new image, which also is going to be a black and white image. And I'm going to click on that little square thing to apply. We're getting a new image. It looks pretty good. And we're going to call that O for oxygen 3. Oh, and I'm going to just put everything else kind of as an icon because we're only interested in H and O. Okay, so now that we have H and O beautifully here, what is the next step? We're gonna denoise those images while they're still linear. So before I apply any histogram transformation to them, if I remove any histogram, they're completely black. That's because they're still linear. I am also not going to do any background extraction on those images because I look at them and I can't tell you as looking at them whether there is a gradient, or if there is a gradient, what it could be. Maybe there's a gradient with this dark area here and this bright area there, or maybe it's just that oxygen 3 is stronger at the end there. So I am not going to do any background extraction because I am not sure how it would work. So we're going to directly go into the Easy Processing Suite. For that, if you don't have it installed and you have PixInsight, you're really missing out. So go down to the description and click on the link. I also have a video about that, about how to install the Easy Processing Suite. It is amazing. We're going to do the Easy Denoise both on oxygen 3 and H alpha. So oxygen 3, let's start with that. I'm going to keep the default settings. You can, of course, play with them, but I'm just going to keep the defaults and run Easy Denoise. It's going to take a little bit of time. Okay, and we are done with the first one. So we can see that there is noise reduction done. We also can see kind of a little bit of a pattern in there. It's not great, but we're going to manage it. It's really difficult when you have low signal to noise ratio images like this one I have in oxygen 3 to really accomplish a lot with noise reduction. I'm going to close all of those windows that I don't need anymore. And now we'll do the same thing for our H alpha. And again, we are done. I'm going to close all of those components. H alpha has a much better signal to noise ratio. So as expected, we get a pretty good result. So yeah, that looks a bit better. Okay, so now we have H alpha and O3, and now we're going to process that as a normal HOO, or H alpha oxygen 3 image. To do so, I'm going to use LRGB combination tool in PixInsight, but the LRGB combination tool requires images that are non-linear, and right now they're linear, so I need to apply a histogram transformation to them. For that, I'm again going to rely on the Easy Processing Suite scripts, and we're going to do the Easy Soft Stretch on both images, and I'm going to set the target median to 0.15. I'm going to apply it to H alpha first, and I'm fine with like kind of darker images to start with. Okay, first one is done. Let's do the second one. Okay, and we've run the Easy Soft Stretch on both images, which means that we are able to combine them using the LRGB transformation combination. So let's go to LRGB combination. In L, I will be putting H alpha because H alpha has the best signal to noise ratio, and so I'm going to use that as a luminance channel for my image. In red, we're going to put H alpha again, and in both green and blue, we're going to put oxygen 3, just like a standard HOO kind of narrowband image. We're going to apply this globally, and this will create a new color image with what we specified it. And here we are. Now, doesn't it look better than what we were seeing at first with just like the unlinked stretch? So first things first, we see the stars are kind of green. So I am going to apply SCNR. I never like doing that because I feel like I'm removing information that I want, but it feels that I really need to do so to get back the stars to blue. So that's one first thing done. Second thing done is I want to be able to play with curves. And so for that, I need to first remove the stars from the image so I can reintroduce them later without oversaturating them with said curves. So I am going to go in here, use StarNet, and we're gonna make sure to have Create Star Mask checked and apply to the image. These weight files are not set by default. If you don't have them, set them in the wrench icon looking in your PixInsight library folder. Okay, let's just apply it. It's going to take a bit of time. And here we are. So we have StarNet did its job, and we have the stars on one side, the star mask. We're just going to put that as an icon and forget about it for now. And we have the image without the stars on the other side, which is what we want to work with. And now finally I can go and play with curves. So let's go inside curves transformation. And what I want to do is probably first boost up kind of the overall brightness of the image while keeping kind of like a contrasty image at the same time. And so by doing so, yeah, this is not bad at all. I like how this looks very 3D, like you're falling down a hole. I kind of like that. And we're gonna do that, and just that for the moment. Now what I'm seeing also is very interesting is that around the elephant trunk here, we have slight tinges of blue that we may try to use. It's probably going to be a bit difficult, but we can try. So now it's all a matter of how much I pump up the contrast. Something like that, I think, will work for now. Okay, so let's apply our curves to the main image, looking decent for now. And now what we're going to do is do some color saturation. So I am going to close my curves transformation for now, and we're going to go inside, and we're going to create a mask. So I'm going to just click on this icon, which will take the luminance of that image. I'm going to apply it as a mask on the image so that the brighter parts will be more affected by my color saturation than the darker parts. And we're going to make sure that we don't show the mask because I want to see what's happening to me. And we're going to go for the color saturation tool. We're going to open the preview window. And first we're going to see what color is that. We can see that the pink color that we see here is exactly at the border on the left and the right. So we'll want to make sure to change only that for red. Second piece is around here. Yes, we do have some blue, which is in this area. So this is something we'll also want to play with. So I'm adding points there, and I'm going to add more anchors. And what we're going to do is increase the range a little bit so we have more space to play, and we're going to increase the blue here to some extent, and so we see the blue is coming up more, is definitely coming up around the elephant trunk, which is exactly what we want. At the same time, I'm going to increase the pink, but we'll probably need to be much less aggressive. Something like that looks decent for now. So I'm changing the curve just to make sure that we have exactly the right amount of saturation. I don't want to overcook it. I don't want to go overboard. And this is looking not too terrible at this stage. So we're going to apply that to the image. Could we do some more saturation? It's not so bad. I'm going to go less aggressive this time though. Here, how does that look? Yes, this is looking pretty good. So now we have more color, and yeah, we are seeing the nebula much more. We're really falling inside that cavern there. I'm gonna remove the mask for now, and maybe do a bit more curves. And you can see I'm making another kind of an S just to increase a bit the contrast that we have, a very slight S. So before, after, so yeah, more contrasty. I like this, and we're gonna apply that. Yes, now I want to just have a bit more of the details pop out, so I'm going to go and use local histogram transformation. So let's see here, local histogram transformation. I like setting up, it seems to me that it works well when I put it around 128. So we're going to do that, and we're going to do a very mild modification. So I put like the contrast limit at maybe 1.2 to start with, and let's see how this looks like. And if we do before, after, definitely the features of the image pop out a lot more, and I kind of like it, and I don't think it is overcooked either. So we're really getting into a good spot here. I am going now to do some dark structure enhance using the utility here, dark structure enhance. Here we have it. And we are going to be very not aggressive with this, like around maybe just 0.1, because the dark structure already pop out quite well on the image. So I don't want to make them pop out even too much. So let's put that in. And yeah, the dark structure are definitely more visible without going overboard. So I really like that. So here we have the image. And what we're going to do next is apply the stars back to the image. So for that, I'm going to use pixel math. And this time I'm going to say $t plus star underscore mask. And just apply and say that we don't want to create a new image. We want to replace the target image. And I'm just going to apply that to here. And our stars are back in. They kind of change the tone of the image. So what I'm also going to do is reduce them to some extent. So again, I'm going to use the easy processing suite. We're going to go for easy star reduction. And I'm going to select my image, which is this. And we are going to run the easy star reduction. It's going to create a star mask automatically and just perform the reduction. And here we are done. And that's a pretty good image. If we zoom in, it's quite noisy and we can see it. But you know, if you print it out, that kind of stuff, it's going to look perfectly fine. Or on a forum post, or as soon as we put it in JPEG, it's going to look perfectly fine. And this could absolutely be our end result. I'm going to do one more step, which is my get out of jail free card, which is a bit cheating. I'm going to use TopazDenoise. So for that, I'm just going to save this image as a PNG file first. I bought TopazDenoise a while back, so my version is an old version. I guess I kind of want to update this version, but let's just open the image for now. Here it is, and I'm not going to use Denoise AI, but AI Clear, and I'm going to put it to medium, and this is probably a good compromise. I'm going to play with the zoom a bit. Yeah, we're retaining a lot of the details. It looks a bit more like a painting, but it's like we do have a very poor signal to noise ratio to start with, so I don't feel too bad about cheating like that. So we're going to use that. I'm going to save the image, and we're going to have a look at how it looks like once it's done. And here we are. That is our final denoised image. I think it looks, yeah, pretty good. You can zoom in to see that we have some weird pattern that's added by the AI. But otherwise, I think it really looks good. I think we could actually have gone to PixInsight and increased slightly the color saturation again, depending on your taste. So I could try this, you know, and then denoise the image. It's actually probably a good idea to do that. But I'll probably do that offline, and I'll put that at the end of the video so you can see how this looks like. And that's all for this processing. I guess it's a tutorial to some extent for my IC 1396 Nebula. I'll also post the raw data back in the description so you can have a try yourself. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been useful to you. I know it's using PixInsight. That's an expensive piece of software, but I really think it's worth the entry price. And I hope that with my videos you get more and more convinced by that. But anyway, if you like this kind of video, whether it's about processing or the equipment or the setup or control software, or reviews or that kind of stuff, and you like astrophotography, feel free to go down below, click that subscribe button if you're not subscribed, in which case, welcome. And also, if you like the video, click that like button, leave a comment down below if you have suggestions on the process. And more importantly than that, don't forget, whenever you can, to look up at the stars, and I'll see you next time.